Some deserved an end in peace. Some demanded correction.
The Fictional Diaries of Jack the Ripper.
The Livestock Market. First Anatomies. Chapter 1. The Morning with Teeth. The market woke as though a tongue of mist tasted the yard. Cartboards rubbed against iron. Dogs took the air like a lesson, and channels lay open like mouths knowing only one word. I came before men gathered their voices and stood where wind sorts scents. Wet straw, cold leather, the between thing of tallow and water, and the first metallic hint that gives each day here its color. Within me walked someone else. He bears no name because names are the delusion one has tamed something. He counts. He counts breaths until movement slackens. He counts drops until water no longer decides. He counts seconds in which a body understands it is no longer this form. The first cut happened as always, brief, without prayer, and air closed its eyes. Warm came the scent, immediate, ferrous, and dogs cleaned their ears because order can sound like a high tone in the head. I stood between table and mist and let my gaze rest at the edge where wood hears steel. Nothing screamed. Screams are for markets where theater is sold. Here reality is divided like bread, pieces that lose names and become useful. I was not here for meat. I was here for lines. Channels drew maps all bodies carry with them. One need only copy them when morning holds the hand steady. The second within me whispered a question that has no child's voice. When will it be city? I heard how the boards answered. When you walk quietly enough. The market's mathematics were becoming clearer each visit. How many cuts before resistance ceased entirely? How much pressure before cartilage surrendered? How long between the moment of decision and the moment of completion? These calculations accumulated in my mind like coins in a purse, each one adding weight to future possibilities.
Oh, where are my manners? My name is Grimwick. And that was just one page of tonight's diary.
Chapter 2. The Silence of Channels. Channels are honest teachers. They do not purse lips. They take and pass on. Water runs. Color comes. Color goes. Water remains. I bent to touch the edge with a finger, as though testing whether day already had its temperature. It had. A coldness that does not lie. A coldness that makes hand wiser than tongue. A boy was here for the first time today, too hasty in everything that cannot bear haste. His knife spoke before his hand listened. The man with the leather apron raised his hand and laid it upon the boy's wrist. Do not show, he said. Find. The boy nodded like one who wishes to be decent and missed it by a hair's breadth. Gaps make the world dangerous, or useful, depending on the hand. I stood closer to the channel than usual. A drop leaped and struck my skin. Small and red as a letter none read any longer. I did not look away. Looking away is polite theft from oneself. Instead, I heard how the channel crossed out the names of things. Lamb, calf, rabbit. It spoke them briefly. So briefly they passed even while being said. The second within me, daily more precise, made a note that fits no paper. A body is an assertion until one corrects it without argument. I felt agreement in bones one does not hear in daily life. They yielded quietly, only as thought, not yet as deed. The thought had teeth, not for blood, for certainty. The boy's clumsiness served as instruction. I observed how his blade wandered, seeking purchase where none was offered, how his grip betrayed uncertainty, making the tool an extension of doubt rather than purpose. The leather-aproned man's corrections were surgical, brief touches that realigned not just technique but understanding. Chapter 3. Lessons at the Open Animal. The men worked. Work is the only clean liturgy. One repeats because repetition leaves no place for the unnecessary. One hand lifted skin where it was ready to be skin no longer. Another drew blade across strop. A third waited, and in its waiting lay more grace than in any haste. Today I received more than cloth. I received a look. The leather-aproned man regarded me like one who knows the tune but not yet the full melody. Thoughtful. Feel, he said. Then the cut is merely politeness with which you complete what has begun. I laid fingers upon the seam one cannot see. Sinew is like the neck of a lie. When one finds it, it releases of itself. I set knife flatter than courage allows, and skin said yes. Scent stepped forward. Warm. Ferrous. The familiar coin upon tongue. Beside me a dog breathed thrice and forgot me. I worked calmly, briefly, as one loosens a thread none should see. No spectacle, no pride. Only the sound things make when finally permitted to do what the line intended for them. Within the animal was order. It was not for me to invent it. It was for me to not insult it. The opened flesh held a peace that people seek in churches and do not find because they carry too many faces there. Here were no faces. There was surface, fiber, weight. I counted 3, always 3, until refusal subsided. 3 breaths, said the second. Hold them as one holds water. Shallow, not deep. A young fellow at the next table tore because he put too much of himself into the work. The leather-aproned man merely tapped his shoulder. He glanced at me briefly, as though asking whether I recognized the difference. Tear makes noise. Cut makes silence. I nodded. Silence is a knife none trace back. The lesson extended beyond technique into philosophy. How force betrayed the user more than the used. How true skill lay in reading what materials wished to become, then assisting rather than compelling that transformation. The blade was not conqueror, but translator, converting intention into reality through knowledge rather than strength. Chapter 4. The Hand That Does Not Tremble. Later, when buckets grew more patient and mist drew itself over the yard like a cloak, I sat in the empty stall and took what remained. No trophy, residual instruction. A piece of skin with a child's belonging to an apron. A bundle of fibers with the defiance of bad conscience. A bone that pretended to be God. I laid blade against skin, not because someone demanded it, but because no one demanded it. The second within me speaks most clearly when no one else speaks. Brief, he says, not heartless, decisive. I did so. The sound came, small and honest. Air changed its temperature without losing color. Within me opened a door I had known by its handle for days. Beyond lies no scream. Beyond lies a room where maps hang. Lines that people carry without knowing them. Alleys that lead into the city like sinews. Stairs that creak like cartilage. Doors that are joints, not wood. I went from map to map, and my hand became the measure. Here an angle, said the second. Here a breath. The room answered with politeness. I set blade upon my hand's back and let coldness in. Coldness does not lie. It told me that trembling is a decision, that of those who still believe they are the center. I am less center the longer I seek lines. This makes the hand calm. I washed knife in the bucket that carried time. Time is water one lets run over edges so they remember what they were built for. The red edge in the bucket was a schoolbook line. Not boastful, correct. I smelled and laid blade flat, as one puts an animal to sleep that owes it no more dreams. The practice sessions in the empty stall became laboratories of precision. Each cut taught economy of motion, conservation of energy, the exact pressure required for clean separation. I began to understand that mastery lay not in force but in timing, knowing precisely when materials would yield to the slightest suggestion. Chapter 5. The Circle of Dogs. Dogs are the only ones who like truth without asking whether it tastes good to them. They ran in arcs not born of play and stopped where the world quietly yielded. One remained standing beside me and did not prick up ears. He let them fall, as though saying I was none of his concern. He was right. I am not his concern. I concern the map that lies above us, connecting and separating us, like a net hanging in wet light. The leather-aproned man approached, looked first at the dog, then me, then the yard. "You have chosen yourself a circle," he said. "Keep it." I nodded. In circles, one is least visible when standing at their edge. In circles, one learns what center means, a point about which none need speak for all to know it exists. I stood still. The dog stood still. A drop fell from a channel, and the dog merely blinked. The world in that moment was finished telling itself, without anyone saying a word. I thought of faces I did not know, and of the silence that should later surround them. Silence like the circle. Silence like knife laid upon stone. Silence that is not absence but presence with closed lips. The second within me whispered a new line into an exercise book none see. Dogs will look away when it becomes city. Not from cowardice, from politeness. I stroked my brow with the back of my hand and let moisture into the eyebrows. Politeness is what remains of grace when one has understood work. The dogs possessed an ancient wisdom about boundaries, about when to approach and when to withdraw. They understood instinctively what I was learning through study, that the most profound transactions occur in silence, witnessed only by those who know how to see without staring. Chapter 6. Phantasies and Cartographies. In the afternoon light grew thicker, as though wishing to linger and see where something goes that it cannot name. I withdrew beneath the overhang and took my tablet, which I invent for numbers when someone asks. Today it held no arithmetic. Today it held directions. I drew no shapes. Shapes betray. I wrote sentences in short lines that calm the hand. Shoulder, flat, without pride. Belly, patience with grain. Neck, brief, then silence, 3. Beside these I noted things no butcher reads, yet all know who have stood here often enough. Light here first, shadow returns there. Wood complains under pressure. Avoid the center. Fantasy, the word of people who believe only lies are free. To me, fantasy is discipline. I see Whitechapel without moving. I see the city's channels dark and ready. I see windows like eyelids that grow heavy at the proper moment. I hear a cough that is no cough but stares under weight. I smell gin in an alley that excuses nothing. I place a body within, not because I hate it, but because it belongs in the wrong place. I move it by one breath, and order rings. Here, it says. Here is the point. The horror one wishes for has teeth and screams. The horror I am learning knows silence and breathes. It sits beside one when drying the blade and asks, "How many more times do you need before you manage without me?" I do not answer. I know it will remain, not as appetite, as map. These mental expeditions grew more detailed each day. I could navigate streets I had never walked, timing my steps to the rhythm of heartbeats that would soon grow still. The city revealed itself in layers, the visible surface of commerce and crowds, and beneath it, the hidden geography of opportunity and isolation. Chapter 7. The Oath of Coldness. Evening, when men did what men do, reckon, haggle, keep silent when too late. I remained sitting at the yard's edge and laid the back of my hand against the table's edge. The coldness I sought was there. Not winter, not suffering. The coldness of decision. I spoke no oath. I wrote it, not on paper, in posture. I shall grow quieter than today. I shall hold the 3 so it is inaudible in others' breath. I shall choose the circle where dogs politely look away. I shall show no teeth. Teeth are theater. I shall cut with silence when silence is demanded. I shall not hunt. I shall wait until lines show themselves as they do at markets that unlearn every lie. Coldness does not lie. I held it longer than necessary and released only when mist lowered its arms and the yard found a word that was not end. Enough, said the yard. I stood. Behind me a channel dripped once more, as though setting a full stop. On the homeward path I smelled houses like people. Some deserved an end in peace, some demanded correction. I passed by and carried maps within me like warm stones in a pocket. One does not open before the river is ready. Sharpness is a decision, said Father in my memory. Today, I added, patience is the hand that makes it. The oath was not sworn to any god or code, but to the cold mathematics of necessity. I pledged myself to precision, to the patient study of angles and pressures, to the accumulation of knowledge that would serve larger purposes when the time came. The market had been my academy. Soon I would require a more complex classroom. Afterward, the market is no nightmare, it is a mirror. Who looks into it counts when things may cease. I count, and I hear how a city I do not yet enter practices its breath with mine. When once it matches, it will be dark. It will not scream. It will nod. London calls across the miles, its fog-wrapped alleys promising opportunities for advanced study. The techniques learned here among beasts will translate perfectly to more ambitious subjects. The blade waits, patient as winter, sharp as necessity. Soon the real work will begin.
I trust you enjoyed this glimpse into a most curious diary. If so, leave behind a small token of your delight with a like, and do consider joining our circle by subscribing. And remember, ring the little bell, and you shall be the very first to know when another diary or a fresh entry emerges from the shadows. And if a whisper stirs in your mind, a thought, a riddle, perhaps a name of someone whose secrets you would dare to uncover, leave it for me below. I read them one by one. And who knows, your wish may guide my hand to the very next diary I choose from my collection.